Could we have everybody take their seats, please? So, good morning, everybody. Glad to see you all on this bright Friday morning. My first duty is to call this meeting to order. The annual general meeting of the College of Dental Surgeons, year 2016. My second duty is to confirm quorum, and quorum by our bylaws under section 3.16 means that we have to have 10 dentists. That's the way the bylaw currently reads in the room, and I think, excuse me,
Confirm that there are more than 10 in the room.
I can confirm that I can still count to 10. I have a few opening remarks, but before I even do that, I want to, those of you that have not previously met Mr. Elimina to my right, he's a parliamentarian who the college has used over the years to assist and facilitate meetings, and he's joining us this morning, and I'm going to defer to him a few times during the meeting so that I can answer questions as part of the panel. And of course, to my left is Mr. Jerome Marburg, the CEO and Registrar, and to his left, Dr. Eric Hutton, the Vice President. We expected the Treasurer to be here, Dr. Hank Klein, but I guess he's delayed, so we'll see when he comes in. The fourth order of business by the agenda is for me to call for the adoption of the agenda, and if I could invite a motion for the floor for the agenda of June 10th AGM to be adopted. Richard Wilczek, and second, Dr. Doug Kahn. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion, any questions on that? Thank you. So if we could then vote on the motion, if I could see hands up for in favor of the motion. Any against? Thank you very much. The motion is passed. The registrar just reminds me, even though our bylaws state that there needs to be 10 dentists as quorum, as many of you will recall, we did make a change. Good morning, Hank. We did make a change that CDAs do have a vote on motions. So unfortunately, the bylaw still needs to be cleaned up to account for CDA's presence at the AGM, but they are part of this organization, and they do have the right to vote. So you're quite right. So for the rules of order, which is the next item on the agenda, I will invite Ellie to just say a few words and put some structure into the meeting. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you again. Just to explain my role, I'm here as an objective advisor strictly on procedure. I have no interest in how things turn out in the meeting. I don't tell people how to vote. We just look at the procedure. That is how you make your decisions. My guide in terms of how to advise are your bylaws, number one, and then this book about parliamentary procedure called the Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure, the Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure. Of the 200 that are in this book, we will use very little, but to the extent that it applies, I will need to rely on Sturgis. The question of a quorum was mentioned, so we need to have a quorum for the duration of the meeting. Just to remind everyone, resolutions, there's a deadline in the bylaws for submitting resolutions for consideration at the annual meeting, and that deadline has passed and none has been submitted. So therefore, there's no resolution on or proposals on the agenda. Just to go through some of the fundamentals for the rules, I usually describe it in terms of 5 principles. The first one is the principle of order. Order would mean you speak from the microphone and the chair recognizes people when their turn comes. It's important to do that also because the meeting is webcast, and because it's webcast, people who are on the web listening into the meeting will not hear you unless you're at the microphone. So please resist the temptation to speak from your seat. Just go to the microphone, line up, and the chair will recognize people in the order that they come to speak. The second issue is focus. So we say there's a couple of dimensions. This is the annual general meeting, so it's a forum in which to discuss the mandate of the organization as a whole. This isn't the forum to discuss personal issues. We're just looking at the mandate, which is essentially, as I understand it, is to regulate dentistry in the public interest. So that needs to be the focus of the conversation, essentially. The third principle, besides order and focus, is efficiency. So with that, the time per person has been set or proposed to be 3 minutes each time you go to the microphone, and to speak up to 2 times. So that's one thing that we will look at. And have this device that was given to me, and I will just give you a signal when your time is running short, and so each person will be given the same opportunity to speak. The next point would be, besides order, focus, and efficiency, is equality. And last year we had to be quite, it was quite helpful in terms of some people having 2 or 3 questions. So the idea is, if you want to speak for the second time on the same issue, you need to wait until those who have not spoken have done so. So we'll go through the lineup, and if you want to speak a second time, just wait until first-time speakers have spoken. The final one, besides equality, order, focus, efficiency, and equality, is decorum. And decorum would mean we speak on the issues, not on the personalities. So there may be differences of opinion, there may be some annoyances. All of these are part of a democracy, a good democracy, but the comments during the debate have to be directed to the issues at hand, not at individuals, and not personal comments, nothing of a derogatory nature that create an unsafe environment. So the idea is to maintain civility and respect. It's okay to disagree as long as we're not disagreeable. That's the essence of it. So we'll need a motion to have these rules approved. I'll turn it over to the chair.
So could I have somebody move for those rules? Danny DeVita at the back, and Don and Dr. Anderson. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any against? Pass. Thank you. Now I have to apologize, just a minor apology, I guess, and that I'm so keen to get going that I forgot half of the remarks I was supposed to give at the beginning. I'm keen to get going because the board and the incoming board have an exciting day ahead of them, and we sort of have a busy time, and we're very conscious of our time this morning. So the first item I forgot is to get you to turn off your phones, yeah, that's. Anyways, so I'm sure most of you have done that. The second one Ellie mentioned briefly is that we're trying this new approach of going online and webcasting the meeting. And my understanding as of this morning, we had 37 individuals signed up to access the online hearing of the meeting. So we're quite pleased about that. Maybe next year, Don, we can get it up to 50. So it's great to have more people involved. Our plan is really to move through the business portion of the meeting as quickly as we can, allowing for a little bit more time at the end if so desired for board engagement questions. And for this reason, when we conclude the formal reports, what we will ask is that you allow all the reports to be presented and that we have questions on the reports all at once, and that way the panel can address them. Ellie has spoken on the rules, so I don't have to say much about that. And with that, then I will move to the approval of the minutes of last year. So I need, again, a motion for approval of those minutes. So Ms. Cairns and Dustin as a second. Any questions? Any corrections on those minutes? I see none being raised. We can then have a show of hands. Those in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. Any against? None. So the motion is passed. Thank you very much for being efficient. So that brings us to our first report, which is mine, and I have the privilege of really presiding over my last AGM, and you will see that in the report, which you all have with you, I hope. There is a written report by me. But if you allow me just a few minutes, I wish to just highlight for you today a few things and make perhaps some personal comments. It's been a difficult year in many ways. It's been tough for myself, the elected officers, and the board on many levels. But at the same time, I have to tell you that I truly believe we have a very sophisticated organization that is both well-run and high-functioning. We're in strong financial health, as you will see from our consolidated financial statements contained in the report, and we have worked hard to build relationships with both our registrants as well as with dental regulator colleagues across the country. And as a result of that, I'm really very pleased to report that BC once again has a voice, a positive influence at the national level, and we're an active player in issues related to certification, accreditation, trade and mobility for our profession. On the people side, we have a tremendous resource in the 100 or more volunteers that serve the college, our board, and the committees that support the board. The college has an incredibly committed and engaged staff that performs at a very high level in the CEO's office, in complaints and registration, operations and communications. These people are really the workhorses that roll out the policies that the committees work on and the board proposes and promotes. We know we have a good work culture. The organization was surveyed and assessed by an outside consultancy last year, and staff confidentially reported that the college is a safe, productive, and enjoyable place to work. This was also part of a full review of the registrar, a so-called 360 that was performed last fall, which included feedback from partner organizations, from government, from staff representatives, and our consultant, Watson Inc., reporting its findings directly to the board, and I'm pleased to say that the report was nothing short of stellar. The review of the CEO, his senior staff, the processes that are in place are all consistent with an exemplary organization. And this has been in great part to the diligence and care and commitment that the CEO and the support and encouragement he has received from the board. The board is proud of this college. The single biggest priority for this college in recent years has been to reduce the backlog of complaints and to reduce new complaints from happening in the first place. And we have seen results on both fronts, as you will see from our annual report. The complaint backlog has been eliminated. The average time it takes to resolve complaints has gone down from, over the last 4 years, from nearly 14 months to about 8 months now. And we have invested extensively in both face-to-face and online educational opportunities for our registrants to enhance their professionalism and improve their practice. In addition, as promised, we started a pilot project to conduct exit service after our complaint resolution process. And the results from both registrants and complainants will help make the whole investigation, the whole procedure, a better and more responsible one. I have served proudly as an elected officer for 6 years and the president for the last 2. Over that time, I've really seen a transformation of the college to a more responsive, accountable, and modern organization. Our governance processes are based on current thinking for nonprofit organizations or regulatory bodies, and even though the membership has believed some of the misrepresentations that were disseminated during the election process that just took place, the reality is that if you take time to read the communications and talk to people on the know, this organization is one that other regulators emulate, our government respects, and registrants for the most part appreciate. It is also true that pace of change has not been well received by some of our registrants, in particular some dentists. But I can tell you with absolute conviction that every initiative this board has pursued has been done thoughtfully, carefully, and in keeping with our mandate to serve and protect the public of this province. That said, we do need to improve the way we develop and communicate policy. That work is also underway. We held a very successful policy workshop led by an outside expert in public engagement strategies last month that was followed up by 2 webinars and by a survey. Given how many people were asking to be included in policy discussions, we hoped for higher participation than we actually got. But of course, this was a theoretical discussion about how policy should be developed, so perhaps some people will just get inspired to join the conversation when the model actually gets engaged. Let's hope so. Realistically, it's not unusual for a governing body, a regulating body, to make decisions that are at times unpopular among those it regulates. I suspect that will never change. But what can I promise you is that we are determined to engage registrants when policies are determined to have significant impact on practicing dentists and dental assistants or dental therapists. And if I can assume that the board tomorrow approves the new framework we have worked on, we believe that this new approach will enhance organizational decision-making and contribute to compliance down the road. Finally, I just want to thank the staff, Mr. Marburg, and my colleagues on the board for their support, camaraderie, and wisdom, and all those of you that have taken the time to write or to talk to me about issues that concern you. It's been a pleasure being your president, and I thank you very much. Thank you. The next report is the Treasurer's report, and Dr. Klein, I understand you are letting your written report stand. You don't have a verbal report?
I have a quick one, and I will be available for any questions at the end of the session here, but I'm just, I want to say thank you to Samson Lim, to Dan Zing, Jerome Alward, for the leadership in providing a thorough discussion on the financial strength and the future of the college as far as the finances go. I came into this position, I was a little skeptical of a few things, but having looked at it firsthand, there are still a few issues that probably could be resolved in a better way for the membership to understand. But the financial statements are in the annual report, and I'm also proud to have been treasurer again when the fees for the dentists and the CDAs went down. This is very unprecedented at the college, and that means that there's good financial strength in the treasury report for all of you. I'm also glad to see that We have got some resources set aside for more communication, and that's available as well. So I think as far as the treasurer's report, leave it up to each individual there to read the report and go through the financial statements. And I will be a treasurer until the end of the month. If you have any other questions that don't become obvious through this session, then please contact me before then, and I'll try to clarify anything that's in the financial statements. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Jerome?
It's over to me. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for taking time out of, I know, busy schedules and busy days to be here. In preparing for these remarks this morning, I don't know if anybody can see, but I put a little doodle on the top of my page. The doodles are the number 9 and a very poorly drawn butterfly and a bee. This week has been a rather sad week in the world of sports and the world generally. I don't know if everybody knows, but Gordie Howe passed away this morning, Mr. Hockey. I'm a transplanted Canadian, but I had the joy of watching him play and with his sons. And I think it's a sad day for us. Likewise, as a younger person, living in South Africa without TV, listening to the radio and being in South Africa in apartheid South Africa, I will say, hearing the rumble in the jungle live was a transformative moment for me and for our family who opposed apartheid and everything that it stood for. Anyway, I digress. I thank you for allowing me to do that. I'm going to pick up a little bit from where David left off, as I start my comments, only to say how very proud I am of the work that has been done by the college and my staff. I'll speak to the staff side of things rather than the board and political side, so to speak, but by the staff, and particularly in the complaints department, but generally, as you'll see through the theme of this conversation. Complaints department led by incredibly dedicated and talented, honorable Deputy Registrar Carmel Wiseman, and under the direction of the Inquiry Committee of Dentists, CDAs, and public members, and a team of very committed, caring, compassionate dentists, complaint investigators, and support staff. Over the past 4 years, we've invested significant resources into resolving complaints, and that effort has paid off. Most of you will remember me as the registrar who came in and raised your fees by $250 and then $250 odd, though the board did that, I'll say, under our advice. I'm delighted that this year we were able to reduce them because we've seen that investment pay off. But resolving complaints has become a success story, thankfully. In 2013, we had the highest number of open complaints in recent memory, or probably in the history of the college, at 362 files. As of March 1st of this year, it was down to 208. As of last week, that number had fallen to 170. The average age of files, as you've heard, has gone down from somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 months to 8 months. We'd like to bring them down even more, and we'll continue to work to do so. Progress like that does not take place in the tidy constraints of a single fiscal year, as you know. It's the trend that matters here, and the trend has seen us shave, as I've said, 4 months off the time it takes to resolve a complaint. At the same time, thanks to prudent fiscal management, we have replenished our reserves, and we've done it ahead of schedule. We are well underway in our file management initiative. This is something I asked for in the wake of the illegal practice case, otherwise known as the Mr. Wu case. It was 2013 at that time, and we learned something a CEO should never, ever want to hear. The illegal dentist was someone who we had investigated years ago and had obtained an injunction against years ago, but we had no record of that in our system. It took our private investigator to inform us of that. And I had to sit in front of the cameras, 9 fixed cameras and God knows how many other reporters, knowing that information and being grilled on that information. So needless to say, our shortcomings around information management were exposed, and we've been working to fix that ever since. We've established new file management tools and protocols for the safe and secure management of information. The most paper-reliant of our committees, the Inquiry Committee, has benefited from that, and Dr. Patricia Hunter can attest to that, and others in the room who are on that committee when they received literally packages, somewhere around there, Dr. Zokol probably around here as well. We've changed to a digital format. That is now done through a secure login to a web portal. The documents never leave, which increases the security and privacy. They stay within our environment, but people have electronic access. We're looking to do the same for the board soon, so beware. You'll all be coming with this, hopefully, rather than this. That's our end goal. Having just lauded the online approach, I'll now say that it remains a priority to get in front of registrants as much as possible. And that will and continues to be a priority, and one that we particularly enjoy. It is good to be on the road, it is good to be in the communities, and it is good speaking to practitioners and learning about their challenges as regulated professionals. In the past year, college representatives led representations, updates, courses, and lectures at every opportunity we could. This is something we were forced to pull back from a couple of years ago as we got our internal house in order. But for the past 2 years, we deliberately ramped up our engagement and outreach efforts and will continue to do so. We are always seeking different ways to enhance our communications. This past year hosted, in furtherance of that, in the past year we hosted our first town hall start meeting for registrants, available in person and via webcast. And I think it went quite well. We'd love to see more uptake, as with this annual meeting. We also hosted our first webinar this year. We enhanced our social media presence. Apparently we're on Twitter. That makes, I guess, me a bigger twit than I was before. And we conducted online surveys to find out what our registrants think about the complaints and discipline process, as well as how policy should be developed. We have a way to go, and we will continue on that course. We're taking full advantage of the breadth of knowledge of our dentists and our staff. Our dentists on the staff are now authorizing practice tips for their fellow dentists based on real issues that come up during complaint investigations. You'll see that if you go to the website, and hopefully when you read the electronic updates that come, the tips from the desk of various dentists. The staff dentists have also developed a case-based workshop for study club members, and they were instrumental in the development and delivery of our brand new Tough Topics 2 course. So Tough Topics in Dentistry. Many of you will remember we have a video series of Tough Topics. That has been substantially updated and will be, we're in the finalization stages with the animators and otherwise of putting that on as an online web experience as well. Having tackled the complaints backlog, we are now planning to invest in the policy development piece. Not just planning to, but we have invested substantially and will continue to. Internally as well, I'm happy to inform you that Dr. Chris Hacker has hung up his investigator's hat. Well, we're still prying it out of his hands. I think he's got a few left, but mostly done so. And he has taken up the role of dental policy and practice advisor. Dr. Kathy McGregor continues to consist in the remediation and monitoring of registrants and is the lead in the health and wellness files. To underlie this change, both Chris and Kathy are now permanent employees rather than contractors. We're delighted that we are able to attract the best and the brightest, and they feel it is a good place to come and work, and we are absolutely delighted that they have converted from consultants to staff and closer members of the family. I always say that an organization such as ours relies on attracting and retaining the best and brightest, as I'm repeating. But I want to repeat it because I want to underscore just how fiercely proud, can never get through this without getting emotional, how fiercely proud I am of the staff team we have built and with whom I have the pleasure of working on a daily basis. Finally, I'd like to thank President Tobias and the entire board for their leadership this past year. I have been doing this work for 22 plus years, and as such, I get a new boss every year or two. And I have to say that having worked with the dentists, I have been blessed with the finest of bosses and the finest of boards. You can't, as a registrar, you can ask for no more. My written report is in the annual meeting, the annual report. And I'm going to turn it over to David, and I think there's an opportunity for questions coming later.
Yeah, thank you, Jerome. So now I'd like to invite our public member from the board, Mr. David Pusey, to just say a few words on behalf of the public members' report.
All right. Guess I'll step up to the mic.
Please do.
My name is David Pusey. I'm a public member of the board, and on behalf of the 6 public members of our board, it's been a privilege to serve the public and you in this way, and our written report can be found in the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, David, very much. That concludes our 4 reports, which means that I now have the pleasure of passing the mic to Ellie, who will now, if you all are comfortable with that, will facilitate the questions from here on. Thank you, Ellie.
And thank you very much. And the intent to have me facilitate is to enable everybody at the head table to participate in the conversation. So I'm not officially the presiding officer, and the president is needed to ask for the permission, and he did for me to do this. Just to explain a few things in terms of where the questions might come from, the 3 possibilities. Number 1, if you're on the webcast and you're hearing this now, you can submit your questions, and they will be received at this table, and will be they'll let us know if a question is coming from the webcast. That's number 1. There's another possibility, and that is some of you may not want to go to the microphone, and in that case, please give me a signal, and the staff will hand a card so you could write down your question, and we will bring it here. And in fact, they may end up reading it, but please, if you do that, write legibly so they can read easily. And the third possibility is obviously the one that traditionally is used, and that is you go to a microphone and you when we speak from the microphone. And I will try to alternate between the questions as they come from the different sources. Keep this in mind, that the questions that will be addressed while the AGM is in session should be addressed to the reports themselves, to the content of the reports. And then once the AGM is adjourned, after that, there will be the board engagement where the discussion will be general. So that would be one other thing to consider. Just a reminder, this is a general meeting, so if I can keep the question and any suggestions that you might have to the general mandate of the college, that would be most helpful. With that in mind, are there any questions on the reports? Go to the microphone.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, no.
No,
well, whatever way you want. Doesn't matter.
I just noticed one thing in the report that really surprised me, and that had to do with CDA.
Do you mind identifying yourself before you do
My
that?
name is Dr. Richard Wilczak from Prince George.
Okay, good.
I noticed in the reports there was 84 new dentists registered last year, but only 46 new net CDAs. Has the board done anything to, that seems like an unbalanced number. Has the board done anything to see if we can increase that number? It just seemed rather low for me. Anybody can answer the question.
Go ahead.
It's an interesting stat. I'm not sure what meaning we can derive from it, quite honestly. We have 6,400 CDAs and roughly, I'm speaking in roughly 3,400 dentists registered. there isn't I'm not aware of a market survey that talks about whether there's a demand or a shortage or otherwise. What it does seem to mean that we're kind of fairly stable in the numbers. I don't know what, I think that we'd find a maldistribution in the same way that we would with almost everything in Canada. But the short answer is it hasn't pinged on the radar to be a concern around public safety and protection that we would step in. And then the rest, the number stuff, in the same way we don't have a mandate around numbers for any of the registrants. In that regard, if there's a shortage, that's something the associations, and we would work with the associations on that if that was identified and we needed it, there was a need, we would collaborate on that. But that's really that's their lead.
Okay. Any more questions? Is anything coming through the webcast? No. Not so far. Any more questions on the 4 reports? Any more questions? None are coming, so I will turn it over to the President to do the last thing, which is to adjourn the formal part of the meeting, and afterwards there will be the board engagement.
Don't want to fight for the mic, Elon. With that, thank you very much. With no more questions, then my duty is to adjourn the meeting, the AGM for 2016, and to ask those of you that are interested to stay for further questions on issues besides or other than the 4 reports, as Ellie mentioned, in that the board and particularly the board officers and the registrar are keen to answer any questions that you may have that we can answer for you. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting and thank you very much.
Okay. So with the formal part of the meeting being, or the AGM itself being adjourned, it's now the board engagement part. So any questions or any suggestions about anything to do with the work of the college is now welcome, is now in order. Please go to the microphone and I guess state your name, and then ask your questions or make your suggestion. And if anything is coming through through the webcast, then
no, but we're just going to ask you to remind them how to do that.
okay.
Oh, there's a note coming. I feel like the Bueller.
Okay, so please remind the webcast people to email EVEN events at cdsbc.org. Events at cdsbc.org with your name. Okay? So those who are on the webcast, please do that. Any questions in the meantime? If anyone wants to ask a question without going to the microphone? I see no one at the mic. Do you mind pausing for a moment while people have an opportunity to send their questions?
In the pause, I can share a story about my last experience with this room. I did my MBA here, but that wasn't my last experience with this room. In my previous life, when I was with the forest professionals, we conducted the registration exam. It was a one-day-long, 8-hour exam broken into 2 portions throughout the province, 23 different locations on the same day. Logistically difficult. And one of the most important things to find is a room that is quiet and appropriate for exam writing, which you would think this would be, and probably 999 days out of 1,000 days in the geological span it would be, but for the fact that the day that they wrote in this room, the Korean Navy had a warship visiting, and the naval band led a parade up, what is it, Cordova here? Full-on brass band and drums and you name it, as these poor wretched souls were writing their registration exam for their career. We heard about that, and the Board of Examiners heard about that, yeah. Well, that's the best I've got, so if somebody has a story.
Okay. Good. Anything from the webcast?
That's cool.
Not yet.
Okay. What is the wish of the group? Do you want to wait or just call this a day? Call this a meeting? Okay, I see no indication of any email coming in, and in light of that, turn it over to the
So,
president to...
Hank, of course.
I just want to thank Dr. Richard Wilczek for providing the only question. I'm amazed. I am amazed. Thank you.
So, on that positive note, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great Friday.